Hello, my name is Kelly Bluen. Welcome to my mini mandala series. In these videos, I show you how to make beautiful little mandalas using just a few basic tools. So any kind of paper will work. Mine is a 5x5 sketchbook. A micron pen, any pen that you love to write with will work as well. I have a graphite pencil and a blending tool. I always start with a coin. This one happens to be a penny, but any circle will work. And then I have a piece of scrap paper that I like to use like a ruler. And that is all you need. All right, so let's begin. Going to pick up my pen and trace the coin. Zoom in a little bit here. So just pick a spot on your paper. It doesn't even need to be in the center. It's okay. There we go. There's the start of our mandala. Okay, so for this one today, I'm going to do things a little bit different, and I hope you like it. So I'm going to start by putting in a grid. I always do this part, I guess. But I'm going to put a horizontal line across the center, and then a vertical line. I just kind of guess at where those go. Then I break up each of these quadrants with a line. And then I just double check to see if these are all similar widths. Like this one right here looks like it should go that way a little more. It looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. Things are rolling away today. Okay, the next thing I want to do is make some little marks on my piece of paper. So I'm going to put this right at the top of the circle. And then I'm going to make 2 marks today. So I want to go a little bit wider than my pencil. So I'm going to go right about there. And I make the mark on the scrap paper and then also right onto my book. And then I do another one. And I'm going to make that one also be a little bit wider than my pencil. Then I go to each line and I add those little marks. I like using this method instead of a ruler because I don't always have a ruler with me, but I can almost always find a piece of scrap paper to work with. Okay, once you get those little marks in, then you're going to connect them with slight curvy lines to create this outer circle. So you don't want to go straight across, you want these to curve a little. And then we're going to do that next line as well. I like making mine with small dashes because I have more control over where it's going. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm never concerned about having perfect circles. And I am going to go ahead and trace each of those right now before I get started. So this is the part where many people that draw mandalas prefer to use a compass because you can get a much more perfect circle. But I do this more for the relaxing than I do for creating perfection. So I'm not concerned if my circles are a little wobbly. All right, I'm going to go into the very center and I'm going to do just some basic little petals. Let me zoom in a little bit. So I'm just going to put a little petal in each one. I feel like it's kind of blurry tonight. I'm not sure why. Then I like to aura those, which means I'm just going to put a little line around the outside. And I'm going to fill in that center just a little bit to make that more of a circle. Okay, so typically we fill in this area in between the lines, but for this mandala, because I like to try to do something a little bit different each time, I'm actually going to work on the lines themselves. So for this one, this very first little circle where we traced our coin, I'm going to put in some little leaf shapes. So one on each side, top and bottom, at each of those lines. So a little leaf that way and a little leaf that way. And that's just a curve up and then a curve under. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so for this next part, I'm going to work on the line again. So I'm going to put a bump from this line to this one and then also underneath it. We're going to make that into a leaf shape. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to each one, just a bump on top and a bump under. And this is where you might start noticing that your lines might be not perfectly equal, so you might have some leaves that are longer than others, and it's okay. That reminds me of those shell necklaces you can buy on vacation that are like those little seashells that curl up. Okay, I'm going to turn mine into leaves, and to do that, I like to make a bump and a bump. So instead of just making like a straight V shape, bump, bump. And then I go to the next one. Bump, bump. And you know that I love these parts where we don't have to think, we're just making that same shape over and over again. These are the moments where I let my mind just kind of wander a little bit and think about something without having to concentrate so much on what I'm drawing. So cute. Okay, when you get that done, I'm going to aura all of that. So I'm just going to do a really thin, light line. If you don't want to aura, you don't have to. Making auras is my personal biggest challenge. I have a very hard time going slow, and I have a hard time hovering close to something that I'm supposed to be, you know, near like that. I just tend to get kind of wiggly and wobbly. So it's good for me to make myself do these. Ooh, I like how that looks when it's outlined. That looks good. All right, you ready for the next part? Okay, so for this next part, I'm going to be making two things in each of these sections. So I'm going to put a little dot in the center, or where I think the center is, and then I'm going to make a bump on top and then also a bump below on the other side. So it's kind of like a backwards S, bump up, bump down. I go to the next one, I can put a little dot in again if I want that reminder of where the center is. Bump up, bump down. I like to turn as I go. Put a little dot, bump up and down. I definitely have some sections that are wider than others. That's okay. And I love how when that's finished, it looks like one continuous line. Isn't that cool? Okay, so now I'm actually going to fill in each of these, and I'm going to add in a little reflection in the top corner. I'm going to take my pen and fill in that bump. And at this point too, you can adjust, because we're darkening these, if you want to make them taller, you can always adjust them a little bit. I'm just going to continue around. So I almost didn't do this because I don't really have a lot of dark in the center, but I just thought this looked really cool, so here we are. And it's going to look even better when we're done. I also enjoy these moments of basically coloring in because, again, mandalas are meant to be relaxing. Well, for me they are anyway, and I enjoy just having a moment to reflect on my week, think ahead to what I've got going on in the next few days. I like to think about lovely things that happened in the past few days, little moments of joy. And sometimes I spend this time thinking about something sad, something a loved one is going through, and that's okay too. All right, I've got mine complete. If you need to take a minute, go ahead. All right, looks pretty good. So now I'm going to aura, which you know is not the easiest thing for me, but it is one of my most favorite things to do. So I love adding auras to things. So I'm going to aura the top and the bottom bumps. Ooh, that one got a little wonky. And I'm only auraing the bumps. I'm not auraing the flat part, although if you wanted to, you could. It is so cool that we're just working on the circles. We're not doing anything on that interior part. So unique. All right, so we've got this nature theme going. So I'm going to turn these into flowers. And I'm just going to use a basic petal shape. If you would like to do something else, you can. So I'm just going to do the top flowers for right now, because I've got lots of room for those. You can make those petals as large or as delicate as you would like. And I'm just going to add a little detail, just a tiny line inside each one. And I know this is going to take a minute, but I'm going to aura the whole thing. It's a lot of little bumps to go over, and I'm going to include that little flat space. So I'm auraing around the flowers, and then it's down into that little flat space if there's room for me to get down there. I think it looks so pretty. All right, I don't have a lot of room to add petals to all of these bottom ones. So a couple of options. One option is we could just leave it. I kind of like that dark and just that little bit of aura. I think it looks kind of beautiful that way. So I think I'm going to leave mine. But if you wanted to, you could put teeny tiny little petals and continue those looking like flowers. You could also add another aura if you wanted. You could also add an aura like underneath these flat ones if you wanted to. So there's lots of options, but I think I'm just going to leave it like that. I like the simplicity of this one. I love that we used the lines that we were given instead of doing the centers. I just think it's so neat. So I kind of love it. I'm going to make my center and my middle flower a little bit larger because I really want that dark like we have out here. And then I'm going to erase my pencil lines. If I can find a pencil with an eraser, since I don't know where my big eraser is. And then I'm going to do some shading. If you use a kneaded eraser, which I have, but I just gotta find it again, then you don't have all these little eraser pieces at the end. Okay, how's that look? What do you guys think? I kind of like it. I kind of love it. All right, so I'm gonna go around this little flower in the middle. I'm just gonna put a tiny bit of graphite around it. Again, this is just a number 2 pencil. I recently found out it's HB, and that's what number 2 pencils are. So you don't need a fancy pencil to do the shading. And I just like to kind of soften that and push it out and away from that center flower. And then I'm going to go to these leaves and I'm going to do that center line. So watch, I'm going to put some in the center, and then when I soften it, I'm going to push it out on both sides just a tiny bit. And look at how it looks like that leaf is sort of folding down in. Do you see that? So just the slightest bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that around the whole thing. And soften it and let it spread out a little bit on both sides of that line. Beautiful. And then for these outer flowers, I'm going to put a little bit at the bottom of the petals around the bumps. So right at the bottom of those petals, right tight against that line. I'm going to push that up and away from that line. And that's just going to give a little shadow as if those petals are kind of tucking down into that middle part of the flower. Beautiful. And I'm not going to add any graphite or shading around each section, although you could. I think that would be very pretty and kind of lift this off the paper, but I don't know, I kind of like the cleanliness of this one, that it's just got a lot of white in the middle. So what a fun mandala. I hope that you enjoyed it. Going to initial it. And again, this is number 58. So down here I will write episode 58. I will write the date, and then I always write just 1 or 2 sentences of a little journal entry about what's going on in my life. So just a fun way to look back at these and remember what was going on. So I hope that you enjoyed that one. Have an absolutely wonderful week, and hopefully we'll see you for the 15 minutes of Zen. And also, it is almost March if you're watching this as I make them. And for the month of March, we're doing a doodle a day, and hopefully you'll join me for those. See you soon. Bye-bye.